Hello and welcome back to Supposedly Fun. My name is Greg. It is time once again to do a Friday Reads video. This is my weekly catch-up on the weekend reading. And spoiler alert, I am pretty hardcore in a reading slump right now, but we'll get to the actual Friday Reads portion of this video later. Now, the first thing I want to do in this Friday Reads video is talk about the Booker Prize, which will be announced next week, and do a bit of a prediction. I have not read any of the finalists for the Booker Prize this year, but as a reader who has looked at the plot descriptions and listened to a lot of the buzz around them, I feel like I can still have an opinion about what might win. So before you comment and say I shouldn't be reviewing things I haven't read, I'm not claiming to have read these books. I am just looking at the buzz around them and my own interest in reading them and making a determination based on that. So the finalists for the Booker Prize this year are A Passage North by Anuk Arudpragasam, The Promise by Damon Galgut, No One Is Talking About This by Patricia Lockwood, The Fortune Men by Nadifa Mohamed, Bewilderment by Richard Powers, and The Great Circle by Maggie Shipstead, which I happened to get from the library just this week. I caused an avalanche of books. So this is the one that I will be reading first if I get out of my slump fast enough to read it before it's due back in the library. So you can tell right there, this is one that I'm really interested in reading, but just based on the fact that I have it from the library and am hoping I'll be able to read it. It is set in a bunch of different locations, but one of those locations is Missoula, Montana, which is where I live. So that's particularly of interest to me. I've heard a lot of really great things about it. I think this is a book that a lot of people would like to see win. But if I'm being honest, I think it would be a surprise if it does end up winning. So we'll see, but I'm thinking this is probably a bit of a dark horse. It seems to have a lot of support, but I'll be surprised if it actually pulls off a win. Looking at the other ones, A Passage North, I've seen kind of mixed reaction to that. Obviously, the jury for the Booker Prize this year is a fan since it did make the shortlist, but I think, again, it seems like a bit of a long shot, and a lot of the things that people mark in its favor are also things that you could say are a mark in the favor of The Promise by Damon Galgut, which seems like a much heavier hitter. So again, I think A Passage North is a long shot to actually win. And when you look at The Promise, I think that is one of the most likely winners. I think there are two very likely winners, and The Promise is one of them. Damon Galgut has been shortlisted for the Booker Prize, I think twice before. And I've heard a lot of really great things about The Promise, so he feels like an author who is sort of ready, or you could say an author who is due for some Booker recognition. And it feels like he is an author that a lot of people would like to see rewarded, and the fact that people are really liking the book, The Promise, seems to speak in its favor a lot. This is another one that I'm really interested in. I'm actually interested in reading A Passage North as well, but maybe down the line. I am on a hold list for The Promise at my local library. Hopefully it will be available sometime soon, because this is another one I would really be interested in reading, and I think it has a really good shot. No One Is Talking About This by Patricia Lockwood. I really did not like that book, and I've continued to see a lot of divisive things about it. Some people say that the second half redeems it. Some people say that it didn't redeem it enough. Some people just love it. Some people hate it. It seems very divisive. And obviously the jury is a fan since it made the shortlist, but I think that could be really hard to overcome, especially with such hard-hitting competition. So I don't think it will win. The Fortune Men seems like a lot of people like it. I haven't heard too much that's negative about it. And it's another one that I am interested in reading. It is not currently available at my local library, but I kind of have it on my radar to get to at some point. Hopefully it will become available soon. So we'll see what happens with that. But again, I feel like the conversation people are having about The Fortune Men is a little bit different from The Promise and A Passage North, but I think it's being crowded out by The Promise. And that leaves Bewilderment by Richard Powers, which is the book that I think is most likely to win. A lot of people are huge fans. Richard Powers has won a Pulitzer Prize for his last book. He is now on the shortlist for the Booker Prize. He seems to be an author that a lot of people like. I think he's a fantastic writer. I don't think he's for me. I read the first half of the Overstory and was not into it. So I don't feel very interested in reading Bewilderment, but a lot of people are reading it and enjoying it, and it feels like Richard Powers is an author who's very of the moment, very popular, and that's why I think it comes down to either The Promise or Bewilderment. I think Bewilderment seems to be gaining a lot of momentum. A lot of people are talking about it. It is a very recent release, so it seems to be in a really good spot, even if just because of that. So I think The Promise started out as the odds-on favorite, and I think Bewilderment is really quickly catching up with it, and it's going to be a photo finish between the two of them. I think Bewilderment has a really good shot at edging out The Promise, but I'm going to say my actual prediction is going to be The Promise, because that's the one that I would like to read. So we'll see what happens next week when the Booker Prize is announced. Of course, I will be doing a reaction video to the prize announcement, but I would also love to hear what you think of the shortlist. If you have thoughts about the quality of all of them, if there was anything you missed from the shortlist, please let me know in the comment section down below. And I would love to hear what you would like to win and what you think will win, because those are not always the same answer. So please let me know that in the comment section down below as well. We'll see what happens. I always get excited to hear what's going to win the Booker Prize. The other big book news that happened this week is that they announced that Billy Porter is going to be turning the book Camp by L.C. Rosen into a movie, and he is going to star in it. And that has me really excited. I really enjoyed Camp when I read it back in June. It is a YA love story about an LGBTQ camp where kids can go to sort of get away from the bullying that they experience in the rest of the world and kind of be themselves. And it's about how even in quote unquote safe spaces, there's a sort of hierarchy and people create cliques and determine what is acceptable and what's not acceptable, because it is sort of that classic romantic comedy trope where somebody pretends to be something they're not in order to catch the interest of the person that they are, I guess, in love with is the word for it. Although I think you need to know somebody a little bit better before you can say love. But anyway, that's my whole thing. So I'm really excited. I think Billy Porter will be a great person to tell this story. I think he will have a really interesting spin. I really hope he plays the guidance counselor the counselor who is in the cabin with these guys, because I think that, if I remember right, that role is written as a white person, but I think Billy Porter will just fit right in and be perfect for that role. He is somebody I've really enjoyed. I saw him on Broadway in Kinky Boots before I moved to Montana, and I'm a big fan, and I am happy that he is going to be doing this adaptation. Now, I am going to skip a 3K Q&A question this week and kind of get back to it next week, because I need to get back to work and get through this video fairly quickly. But I am going to say, so in my last Friday Reads video, I put it out there that if you have questions about having a booktube channel, you could leave them there. I'm going to put that out again, because I got 2 or 3 questions and all of them were really good. And I'm thinking that if I can get more, I might even do a separate video just with the Q&A for that. So if you have a question about having a booktube channel, again, I'm not the person to ask about technical things like cameras and microphones, things like that. But if you have any other questions about, if you've been thinking about starting your own booktube channel and something's been holding you back, or you need advice or anything like that, have a question, please put it in the comment section down below and I will think about it. I did not make a lot of progress on the bigger project videos this week. I didn't make a lot of progress on anything this week, to be honest. I am still stuck about halfway through the preparation for my Gone with the Wind post, and I'm stuck about halfway through the preparation for my booktube channel advice post. So I'm going to continue working on those, but it's going to be fine. If I don't get to them next week, it's okay. I have my October wrap up to do next week anyway. But again, if you have questions, please put them in the comment section down below. I might put a post in my community tab as well, where you can put questions if you have them, just because I got some good questions, and I want to give people an opportunity to get their question in there if they would like. So let's move into the actual Friday Reads portion of this video, which frankly is a bit of a disaster, because I made a lot of progress on one book, no progress on the other book that I was reading, and because that's where I ended up, I didn't get back to anything else. So if you remember from last week's Friday Reads, the 2 books I was currently reading were Aristotle and Dante Aristotle and Dante Dive into the Waters of the World. Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe is the first book. This is the sequel to it. This is actually a book I was listening to on audio because Lin-Manuel Miranda narrates it, and I had gotten a print copy because I didn't think the audio would be available, but it is on Scribd. So I was listening to this, and I had started reading Taste, My Life Through Food by Stanley Tucci. And basically, I was at 76 pages when I did my last Friday Reads video, and I believe I'm still at 76 pages right now. Yep, 76 pages. So I made absolutely no progress whatsoever in this book. Over the weekend, I really prioritized the audio instead, so I didn't pick this up, and I thought once I finished this, I'd get to this. And then I listened to a bunch of this. In the audio, I only have an hour and 42 minutes left. So here's what happened. I really have been struggling with the idea of reading. I was in a bit of a slump, or like kind of on the borderline of a slump last week, and I feel like I am full on in a slump right now. And to be honest, a lot of that comes down to, I mean, everyone has been really nice. My grandmother died, thank you. That is certainly part of it. But a lot has to do with the part I mentioned about Guinness. We had to take him to Seattle for a specialist. And that has really been weighing on me a lot. I haven't really been sleeping, just being honest. And it's been hard, especially because we don't really know. And to be fully honest, the likely cause of what's going on is not good. And if that does turn out to be what's wrong with him, it's just not good. So we don't know anything until we go back until December for sure. And we even might not know anything for sure then, because basically the MRI and everything else that they did shows signs of a problem, but not the problem. So, you know, right now we're just trying to take care of him and adapt and adjust. And it's not easy. You know, I think of my dogs as my kids. So it has been weighing on my mind a lot. And I think that is part of why I had mentioned that I really needed fun reads. And that was kind of why I had started the audio of The Charm Offensive by Alison Cochrun. And then I immediately bailed I didn't bail. I just put it to the side once I realized that Aristotle and Dante was on audio. And I thought about going back to that because it was fun, or supposed to be like a diversion, but Joel had read this too, and it actually does have a serious side. It's a little bit about mental health, it's about anxiety and things like that, and I felt reluctant to go back to a book like that when I'm sort of, you know, struggling with a little bit of anxiety and stuff like that myself right now. And Aristotle and Dante, I got almost to the finish line. I only have an hour and 42 minutes left in the audio. And a lot of very real things happen in this book. And I was really struggling with them. And what I found over time was that I felt myself disengaging from the book and not quite paying attention to it. There were a couple of times early in the week when Joel, who had just finished the audio and really loved this book, would say to me, what part are you at? What part are you at? And I would stop, and I didn't know what had just happened in the book, which is never a good sign. It means you weren't paying attention. So I'd have to go back. And I don't think that's fair to this book because I was really loving it. But the more serious things kind of happened in the book, the more I felt myself detaching from it. And I don't want to say what the serious things are because it would be a spoiler, but I need something that's not real world, and this is very real world. I feel like actually Stanley Tucci might be a better fit. So I haven't picked up the audio of Aristotle and Dante in 3 days. And I've thought about picking this one up, except the problem is I'm tired all the time, and I don't know. I just haven't felt like picking it up. And that's why I feel like right now, this week, it's hardcore reading slump time because I haven't even picked this one up. Usually in a situation like this, I would pick up a Sue Grafton book. I think I'm up to H is for Homicide in my reread of the first part of the series. And I haven't even felt like doing that. And that's how I know it's a definite slump at this point because I don't even feel... for a long time, I've been able to divert myself to something fun, easy, sort of comforting, and that will help me power through and keep reading. And just this week, I haven't even felt like doing that. So I'm stalled out, which means I haven't really gotten a lot of reading done in the month of October. But we'll talk about that a little bit more when I do my October wrap up next week. And it's kind of similar to, I had DNF'd Damnation Spring by Ash Davidson because it was too real. It was stressing me out, especially because there was that situation with the dog in the book. And it was the slow slide into a reading slump. And I could try to force it, but I don't really want to. So we'll see what happens this week. I don't want to force anything, is what I mean. I feel like you can only get out of a slump when you feel ready. And I've managed to sort of work my way around them a lot over the last 2 years. And I who knows? It might be preemptive to say slump. It's been 3 days since I read anything. So maybe it's not even that serious of a slump. Maybe this weekend I'll dive back into something and it will be fine. But we'll see. Only time can tell. So that's kind of where I'm at. In terms of other things, I had started The Power of the Dog by Thomas Savage before I picked up Stanley Tucci's Taste, because I got 12 pages in and then kind of realized it's like I need something that's going to be a little less serious. I do really want to read this book before the movie comes out, and I think the movie comes out either at the end of November or the beginning of December. I can never remember which. And then it will be on Netflix. And I'm actually really wanting to I want to read the book before I see the movie, but I'm also thinking that this is a really interesting candidate for a book versus movie comparison. So I really want to try to get to this at some point. I also have the love songs of W.E.B. Du Bois from the library, and the way I'm feeling about reading, I just don't know how things are going to go with this and The Great Circle, because both of them are hefty books, and this is an even heftier book than The Great Circle. So it's very likely that I will return at least one of them to the library without having read it. And I think this one is actually a shorter loan period. It's only 14 days and I'm already almost a week into it, and that's not good. So I do really want to read this book, but it's probably not going to happen right now, because especially with the slump happening officially, I think we can acknowledge that. I should not put pressure on myself to read things just because they're time sensitive. So actually, to be honest, both of them are probably going to go back to the library, and it'll be what it's going to be. So we'll see what happens with these books and any others. It's going to be what it's going to be. Just going to write it through. It's not all bad news, though. I listened to a lot of podcasts this week, and that was a nice diversion. It kind of kept me listening to things, and maybe that will then translate back into audio in the next week. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But that's how my reading week has gone. And I'd love to hear how your reading week has gone, what you've been reading and loving. It's Bake Off night as I am filming this, because we have a new episode of The Great British Bake Off here in the United States. And of course, I'm really looking forward to that. Tell me who your favorite person on Bake Off is in the comments down below this season, because if you have a favorite, I would love to hear it. And Guinness is popping up to say hello right here at the very end. Anyway, I'd love to hear how your week is going and all that stuff in the comment section down below. As always, I really appreciate your time, and I will be back. Until next time, happy reading.